Good Burger 2 is directed by Phil Trail and stars Kel Mitchell, Kenan Thompson, and among others. And this is the sequel to 1997's Good Burger, which was based on a skit that was from the popular show All That from Nickelodeon. And in this story, it picks up 26 years after the events of the first Good Burger, where you got Ed's now pretty much running the Good Burger's place and everything on his own, and he gets reunited with Dexter after they pretty much have like a crazy event that happens with Dexter and his business that he was running and stuff. And pretty much the plot deals with them having to save Good Burger from going down under. Kind of similar to the first one where they're having competition with another fast food joint. In this case, instead of Mondo Burger, it's Megacorp, who's basically trying to come in and take Good Burger out of business and turn them into their own turn them their own franchise and stuff around the world and everything. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, growing up, I gotta admit, I was actually a really big fan of Good Burger. I have watched some of the sketches from All That when I was a kid, and All That was my introduction when I got introduced to Kenan and Kel. And the talents that were involved with Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson, they just really had such a blast growing up. Especially their show they actually did together, Kenan and Kel as well. They had that opening song by Coolio, which was a lot of fun. And I remember the first Good Burger movie when I was a kid. I used to watch it nonstop because it just had so much like joy and nostalgia for it, and just that kind of really fun and level of having the two guys really have their talents do what they do best. Especially with the hyperactive Ed, played by Kel Mitchell, and he's not always bright, but there's just something about him where he's just so unpredictable of what he does. And, Kenan Thompson playing the straight man was always just a blast, too. And, their comedic timing together was just always a lot of fun. But you could tell that it's been really a long time since they've had, like, any kind of collaborations together. And then when it was announced recently, about a year ago, when they announced that they were going to do a second Good Burger film, I got really excited because even though Good Burger, the original film, has its time and place when it came out in the 90s and stuff, and while it's not an all-around great film, it still holds a lot of nostalgia for me, and even to this day, it has a lot of good, rewatch value because of how catchy it is and how fun it is. And while not every joke lands, and it's not really a great comedy, so to speak, and as up there with some of the greatest or anything, but still as a movie that's based on a skit from a popular sketch comedy show on that, it's definitely one of my favorites, and it still showcases a lot of the stuff that I really miss with the 90s, the talents of the two duel and just that all-around good feeling of, having a lot of heart to it. And, it also makes me miss when Sinbad was around too doing movies, especially when he used to do stuff like that. And then also with other movies that he showed up in. And so I got really excited when they were going to do the second film, and I kind of knew going into it wasn't probably going to be as good as the first one because we live in this trend now where we see comedy films that get sequels years later and stuff, and they can be hit and miss depending on how well they can turn out. There are some ones that I do have some fondness for that I like, including Dumb and Dumber 2, last year's Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, and there's been a couple other ones like Bill and Ted Face the Music and stuff. But it's really hard to really get comedies right because a lot of times they fail. Like, I haven't seen it, but I heard Zoolander 2 had that problem. And then you also had other ones that really missed the mark completely. Like Joe Dirt 2, I heard was pretty bad. So it really just depends on what you're really getting yourself into. But after finally getting a chance to watch this film and being able to after finally getting a chance to see it, I can honestly say that I definitely had a blast with this. This is definitely one of those rare cases where it was actually really good that they made a sequel that put a lot of passion into it. And there's been some other ones, like I mentioned earlier, that do that as well. But I'm glad to see that there are comedy films that do get sequels that you can tell that they have such a love and fondness of making these kind of movies. And to get my pros out of the way, what can I say? Kenan and Kel, they still have it. They really have, their chemistry is still fantastic. You get to see what the characters are up to over the years. In this case, you get to see that Dex is pretty much became an inventor, and he's trying to come up with different things like for his company and stuff. And well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's what leads into the plot after an event that goes badly that happens. But also, you get to see what Ed's been up to, and you get to see he has a family. You get to see that he's basically running Good Burger and all that. You get to see some of the new crew that he's pretty much hired and everything. And just the unpredictability of Kel Mitchell's Ed like the way he goes along and stuff. It's just it kept me smiling throughout, and because much like the first film, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot where the comic was going in certain places, but knowing that Ed's got that kind of level where he's not the brightest kind of guy, you could still tell that, you know, he's really nonchalant about how things go, but it's just so funny to see the way he gets in those situations. And, you know, the friendship that it really holds with him and Dexter as well is still very, you know, touching and heartwarming. And we did have that present in the first film, but I do appreciate they kept that vibe going in this to an extent. And they really showed a lot of the compassion that they have for each other and stuff. And even though, you know, there are times where, you know, Dexter doesn't always, you know, like what Ed's doing at certain times because he doesn't really understand certain things. But that's just the dynamic that I really enjoy seeing throughout the film. And also the way that we get introduced to some of the other new casts, I thought worked great too, especially the niece character that we have that's of Dexter, I thought was good. You got some other characters that they add too, especially in this one where you get Ed having a son called Ed 2. And he does have some funny parts that I enjoy, but he does have a little bit of hit and miss when it comes to the comedy parts, because some of his jokes do feel a little, you know, kind of off, and they don't always land too much, but he still is a fun character. And then some of the other familiar faces, like Fizz is back. You also have this kind of older lady that's, I guess, the equivalent of Otis from the first film, and she does have some really funny lines that crack me up here at times. The other appreciation I do love too is some of the little callbacks we get to the first film that I thought were fun. You know, like you see in the trailer, you see Carmen Electra come back, and you also get some of they have like more jokes involving with the Burger Mobile and things like that, and you got, you know, some other things that just go on. But the comedy, I think, really works to its advantage because of how nonchalant some of the actions that it does, but also some of the unpredictability that had me laughing my ass off throughout the movie that I couldn't see. Like, there's this part where they're at a restaurant and they're one of the owners that's for the rival corporation is trying to get Ed and Dexter to sign this contract for them to take over for Good Burger and stuff. And the way there's this whole scene that takes place in this restaurant where Ed's pretty much looking at a menu upside down, and then he actually literally gets upside down reading. I just thought that was really funny. So there's that, and then the way that they also get involved with the other employees, I thought was a nice touch, because unlike the first film where you didn't really get to see much of the action going on with the other coworkers and stuff, I do appreciate that at least in this one everyone does have a part for themselves. And even though I'll get into some of my cons later, I can at least give a lot of props for trying to expand on some things. And also, I got to give them credit for poking fun at some of the stuff that we get with the AI, kind of, because it's kind of relevant now that we see the whole thing going on with AI. And they go into this thing where pretty much the evil corporation is trying to replace the workers with robots and stuff. And they do poke fun of that in certain ways I thought was really fun too. And so there's that. And then just the overall, the really good feeling of vibe, and the passion that it really has, just it's what really kept me going with the movie the most. But if I do have to get into some of my cons, I will have to say that the movie is pretty much, you know, a rehash of the first film, where you have a rival fast food company comes in, they try to take over Good Burger and stuff, and you get into some of the same situations that Dexter and Ed got themselves in. And it is beat for bit, and you can pretty much predict where the movie is going at times. But because I was so involved with the characters, and because there was just so much with the tone that it really went along with it and stuff, I still was going along with the ride, because I had so much fun with all the stuff that they were doing throughout the movie. And yeah, there are some jokes that don't always land at times that can be, you know, pretty, you know, not land too well at certain points. And also it was a missed opportunity with trying to, you know, expand on some stuff that they didn't really properly get introduced at the beginning of the film. Like the whole stuff that's involved with Dexter being an inventor and stuff. I wish we could have, you know, seen more of that take place throughout the film and, you know, showcase more of his talents and stuff. And we, you know, there's also some little missed opportunities that we could have seen too, like maybe get some more. I mean, it is a comedy, so it's not really trying to take itself too seriously, but it could have really gotten some more stuff involved with like the gap going between the first and second one, you know, and to let us know what happened to some of the other characters. And you kind of get an idea of what happened to some of the other ones, but it would have been nice to at least get some other references and stuff, and maybe find out what happened to some of the other ones involved. And things like that. But other than that, though, I still had a blast with the movie, and it's not going to be one of my best films of the year or anything, but it is definitely going to make a good double feature with the first one. And surprisingly enough, I did actually have some more laughs, slightly more in the first one, but then there's probably some other things in the first one I kind of preferred a little over this one in certain areas, but they both go hand in hand with me. And with that, I'm going to give the movie a compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. And so, for those of you who have also seen Good Burger 2, and also the first one, and also if you've seen, for those of you who have also seen all that, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.